Good evening. Welcome to the State of Business on RTV, and I'm Rukshi Panditaratna. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Minister Samara Wickrama discusses proposed ETCA with visiting Indian Commerce Minister. Asian Development Bank lowers growth forecast for Sri Lanka. Minister Malik Samara Wickrama and visiting Indian Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman held discussions on bilateral cooperation in Colombo today. The proposed economic and technology cooperation agreement was among the topics discussed.
Our intention is to try to finish it as soon as possible, perhaps end of December if it's possible, but if it is not, we'll certainly address all the issues and before we come to a conclusion. Of course, we in Sri Lanka are also of the view that it offers us a tremendous potential to enter the Indian market and do business in India. It's a huge market, as we all know. It's 1.25 billion people with about 300 to 400 million middle income earners. So from our point of view, we'd like to have this agreement finalized as soon as possible, but we address all the issues that are being brought up by our businessmen, business leaders, and the trade and professional chambers.
The context being the ETCA, on which the negotiations are just beginning. I'm happy to be part of it. We recognize there's immense opportunity between the two countries. There are, of course, issues to be sorted out, issues to be talked in good detail. I wish to state here that whilst the opportunities exist, whilst the synergies between the two countries are very repeatedly underlined by the businesses that way, both Indian and Sri Lankan businesses which talk to each other, it is important to recognize that this negotiation has to be done in detail and without any kind of pressure on the timeline. It has got to be done with a lot of trust, and there's absolutely no compulsion on the time. It is important to recognize that both sides should be at ease when they conclude it. Both sides should be at ease when they negotiate. And therefore, let me reassure you here that India looks forward to having an agreement with Sri Lanka. We value that agreement. But of course it has to be done, taking everybody on board and talking on every issue of concern for both sides.
Asian Development Bank has lowered the economic growth forecast for Sri Lanka, saying growth prospects for Sri Lanka edge lower on weak industrial performance and fiscal consolidation. In an update of its flagship annual economic publication, Asian Development Outlook, released today, ADB lowered the GDP growth rate to 5% for Sri Lanka in 2016 from the 5.3% it projected in March this year. The growth in 2017 was lowered to 5.5% from the 5.8% projected 6 months ago, while the inflation will remain 4.5% this year and 5% in 2017. The update says prudent debt management is required in Sri Lanka, where general government debt ratios have long been high by regional standards. Minister of Tourism John Amaratunga says tourist arrivals to Sri Lanka will exceed 2.5 million this year. The data shows as of end August, Sri Lanka received 1.84 million tourists. Sri Lanka Tourism celebrated the World Tourism Day today, focusing on the UNWTO theme, Tourism for All, promoting universal accessibility. The ministry said this year's theme is of special significance to Sri Lanka tourism as it works towards implementing the statutory requirement of making the country's tourism sites accessible to all visitors.
I must remind you that while accessibility remains a key component of our tourism development strategy, sustainability of the industry is of equal importance. We must ensure that our resources and attractions remain unharmed by the development activities currently which is taking place in this country. We must resort to ecotourism practices wherever possible, and protection of the environment should be at the top of the tourism agenda.
More news after this break. Welcome after the break. General Secretary of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, Tilvin Silva, says the VAT amendment bill will create more economic issues to common masses. Addressing the media, he said they will agitate against the VAT being imposed.
ඡන්ද ගන්න කාලේ ආණ්ඩුව කිව්වේ ආර්ථික සංවර්ධනය කරලා ජනතාවගේ සාක්කු පුරවනවා කියලා. හැබැයි බලය ගත්තට පස්සේ ආණ්ඩුව කරමින් ඉන්නේ ඒ වෙනුවට ජනතාවගේ සාක්කු සුද්ධ කරලා ඇමතිවරුන්ගේ සාක්කු පුරවන එක තමයි කරමින් ඉන්නේ. ලෝකේ බොහෝ රටවල් මේ සෞඛ්‍ය සේවයට බදු අය කරන්නේ නැහැ. වියට්නාමය, තායිලන්තය, දකුණු කොරියාව, මැලේසියාව, මාලදීවින් වගේ රටවල් සෞඛ්‍ය සේව සඳහා බදු අය කරගන්නේ. එහෙමදී තමයි ආණ්ඩුව මේ තමන්ට සල්ලි නැතිකම නිසා සල්ලි හොයාගන්න නිෂ්පාදන මාර්ග දිනු කරනවා වෙනුවට මේ එදා වේල හොයාගන්න බැරුව අමාරුවෙන් ඉන්න ජනතාවගේ කන බොන එකට බදු ගන්නවා. ඊට අමතරව අසනීපයක් වෙලා පුද්ගලික රෝගවලකින් බෙහෙත් ගන්න ගියොත් ශල්‍ය ක්‍රම කර ගන්න ගියොත් ඒකට බදු ගන්නත් දැන් මේ බදු යෝජනාව තියෙනවා.
Now we have few more stories in brief. National ICT networking session organized by National Chamber of Commerce in partnership with World University Service of Canada was held in Colombo recently. It was held under the title Towards a Digitally Inclusive Sri Lanka. The members of the Janasatha Peramuna today distributed leaflets in front of the Fort Railway Station alleging that government is planning to contract a foreign firm to collect taxes. They say that local youth will lose job opportunities if this plan is implemented. Fitch Ratings has assigned DFCC Bank PLC's proposed subordinated debentures of up to 7 billion rupees and expected national long-term rating of A+ Lanka expected. The proposed debentures, which will have tenors of 5 and 7 years and carry fixed coupons, will be listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange. DFCC expects to use the proceeds to strengthen its Tier 2 capital base and manage maturity mismatches. More news after this break. Welcome after the break. The market ended the day on a mixed note with mixed investor activity seen on the bourse. Foreign investors remained as net sellers with distilleries, Commercial Bank, Sampath Bank and John Keells Holdings subject to foreign activity. The all share price index gained 4.35 points to close at 6,483 and S&P SL20 dipped 0.47 points to close at 3,589. The turnover was 896 million rupees. The top traded counters were Distilleries 229.9 million rupees, John Keells Holdings 110.1 million rupees, City Land Development 103.6 million rupees, Commercial Bank 47 million rupees and Sampath Bank 40.4 million rupees. Foreign inflows amounted to 384 million rupees, whilst foreign outflows totaled at 406 million rupees. Let's take a look at the day's forex rates. That's all we have for you tonight. See you tomorrow at the same time. Take care. Good night.